We're live.
We are live. Good evening. Welcome to our January 19th regular session of the school committee. We're calling to order at 7:05. We have all members present except Ms. Koshin. So we're going to move right on to the consent agenda. All items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the committee so requests, in which event the item will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the minutes or any of the warrants? No? Okay. At this time, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Moved by Stacy.
By Stacy.
Seconded by Amanda.
Seconded by Amanda. All in favor? Great. All right. We do not have any student reps tonight. And if it's okay with everybody, I didn't hear anybody about public comment. Keith, did you hear anybody?
I did not.
Okay. We're going to hold our individual comments until after we have our first presentation, just so we can keep things moving right along. Is that all right with everybody?
Yes.
All right.
I'm on.
Take it away.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So I am here to just do the Holliston Student Services update. I've put together, knowing that some may be tuning in just to kind of get to know me as well, so I just wanted to give people the perspective of where I am coming from in this role. I have been in the Holliston school system for over 20 years, but come with clinical counseling experience, both in schools and out, school administration, and then this is my first year as the interim director of student services. As I sort of started this job, which I think will paint the picture of what I'm going to share with you of all the hard work we have been doing as a student services department, I feel like my own professional vision really aligns with the district and the strategic plan, which coincidentally is a really great thing. And so I'm really looking to sort of just align each student and staff's journey along their sort of trail of success in the Holliston Public Schools. So that's my vision, and that's what hopefully I have been projecting to our staff and our students and our families. When I jumped into this position, I sort of saw it as special ed until I learned that there's really this umbrella of student services. So just for people that don't recognize that it really goes beyond special ed, and I think that that's a uniqueness to the director position in Holliston, which I really like. So these just outline the areas of which fall under my umbrella, which are really important, and paint that picture again of the work we have been doing. Joni and I sort of share the English language learners, but really looking at the special ed, the mental health services, the nursing and medical needs, and 504s, and just overall student support for all students. So I'm going to dive into the data, and I know Kelly Camp did this last year, and so what I want to do is sort of project for you what she presented, so the increase, because I think we all hear everyone talking about student struggles, whether it's Holliston, across Massachusetts, or across the nation. So this is especially pertaining to Holliston, and really looking at our current numbers are outlined in the graph of students on IEPs, students on 504s, our ELL population, which is growing, and our out-of-district students. And I just show the increase of what Kelly presented to now, and you'll see that upward tick. And I really think what we are doing as a student services department is trying to determine what that upward tick is caused by, right? And so we're doing a lot of digging and researching just to figure out if we're on the right track. How are we creating independent learners? I really want to get away from creating dependent learners, and so a lot of work you'll see is in the areas of that. I also outlined, which I think you've seen in years past, is just our disabilities by category, and really looking at where are our biggest needs, and this really drives as well our continuum work across the district. So our ASD population is pretty large, our SLD, so you'll hear me talk a little bit about our language-based program that we're trying to get up off the ground, and our emotional disabilities are also really on an increase so far as disabilities by category. I I want to give a lot of credit to our nursing staff. We have done a lot of work led by Missy Jordan, who's our nurse lead, around aligning the district work within that nursing department. So when I jumped on board, we did a lot of discussion around making sure our practices, the things that we do, the policies we put out there are pretty consistent across buildings. So that's like right down to how we write our health plans, how we collect medications, what's the expectation of parents, what does that look like. So we put together, Missy and I, a PD for the year for the nursing department and made it really nursing specific, where they're going to do professional development. They're going to relook at their practices as a nursing department and align those across the district, which is the first time we've really done that. That's not to say that it's, the school-based PD is not important for them, but I also feel like it's really significant that we get that health and medical work aligned. I also wanted to bring to light that we are collecting data and just see that we are having more students with significant medical needs still in our schools, which is amazing. To me, it's an area where I'm really passionate about having students stay within our school system when they can. But I think that also goes to light with the nursing staff being stretched really thin, and making sure that they are doing everything as far as their medical needs for students, but also training the teachers and the staff on what to do should something arise with these kids. So just sort of bringing that awareness, and you'll see with our professional development training that those are more specified towards medical needs. Just in summary of looking at that data is really what I wanted to bring to light was our struggling students are not just our special ed students, and I think that that's really important for people to know. And yes, there is fallout from COVID, but I feel like we need to get back on track of how do we now, bridge that gap, right? And being very mindful of what is causing our students stress and challenges. Where can we find that balance of like empathy versus sympathy, and not lowering that bar for any of our students, but really pushing them, but knowing that we need to skill build as well. So that's an area of focus for us. So this is sort of my student services, or my director of student services to-do list. These are the things that I'm just going to go over, and then at the end, obviously, if you have questions on anything. But these are the areas in which not only myself, but our SSAs, Jeriel and I have been working really closely together. I feel like that's a really wonderful partnership that I have. And of course, my central office staff here really working with me to help, support the needs that I feel like we need to focus on. So first, we are really looking at professional development and making it more role specific. So you heard Jeriel and I talk a lot earlier this year about focusing on redesigning our student supports. That includes all counseling staff, our nurses, our psychologists, and really making sure that when we're pulling them during the school day, we're doing really meaningful work around their impact on students and their support of parents and families and what that looks like. So some of these trainings, this January, this next PD, they're all going through psychological first aid, which is really a wonderful thing. For those of you that don't know, it's a pretty extensive day-long training where these staff members are learning how to resolve crisis. So a big crisis happens in the community. What are they going to do as team members to go in and best support not only the staff and students, but family members and how they're impacted? We're doing a lot of training through MARC. There's been some emphasis, and we are re-looking or re-examining our bullying intervention plan and how we are going about looking at behaviors such as that. The MARC training has we're doing a train the trainer model, so all the counselors, some administrators have been trained, so we're using that same language and then training staff on what language can they use when they see incidents of unkind behavior, bullying behavior, so that we're all using the same language. Silence is probably the worst tool that we could ever have, and sometimes I feel like when we're not powered with the language, we fall to silence, and then that leaves those students or staff that feel targeted, feeling alone and unsupported. We're doing a lot of work, continued work around trauma-informed practices. We have a lot of our staff members are taking part in a class through Leslie College. We're doing CBT training, which is going to help our counselors be aligned with building skill in kids. So we want to veer away a little bit from clinical counseling in schools, but really building kids' skill and capacity to be able to stay in school. That's the goal of a school counselor. Our nurses are engaging in a lot of this work, but also doing an increased training around allergy awareness, Narcan training as well. Our administrators are being trained in that as well. So there's a lot of heavy lifting, but really important work happening.
Can I just ask real quick, who's going to the psychological first aid?
So that, I'm glad you asked, I forgot to mention. So that is all of our student support, so all our counseling staff, our nurses. Jerry L is sort of leading the charge on that. And then we've also reached out, he has reached out to local communities and offered the empty seats we had. We got a certain amount of seats, I don't know off the top of my head. So we have surrounding districts with the same support staff coming, so that should a crisis happen in Holliston, we can call on Hopkinton or Medway and say, our staff aren't in a place to help, it's so close to home, can you come over? And vice versa. So there's this collaboration between districts relative to crisis response. So first time we've ever done that, and I think it's really important work. So. The other area we are looking at, and I'm going to send out and launch on our website tomorrow, is I've been collaborating with CPAC, so you might have remembered the, I can't even think off the top of my head, but the binder, the welcome binder that they used to provide was, we had recognized it was a little outdated too. So we created a family resource guide that really is a quick and easy guide that will be electronic. It has links in it, but really outlines for families where they can go for support. What are certain things? What does a 504 mean? What does an IEP mean? What is child find? All of these things. It provides a glossary of all of our acronyms where I feel like as educators we, bounce them right out, and then families are looking at us like, what are you talking about? So a guide around that. We'll post that on our webpage, and any new families coming in, we will have at central office at our, Danielle will be able to provide that as a resource for them as well. We have updated, our SSAs have helped me update our procedural manuals. So while this was something we've always had, it was never really all pulled together in one place. So this manual is more of an internal doc that helps all of our student support, our special ed liaisons really know what are the processes and procedures here in Holliston, right? So you might come from a different district where they do things a little different relative to an IEP meeting or things that are sent out. So all of that is outlined in that. Again, all of the forms are linked in there. I don't know how many times poor liaisons are like, where's the form for this? Where's our ESY form? Where is this, right? So it's all in one location that will be provided to them and then put on our staff portal. I think Dan had mentioned last week we're looking to bring through Power School, it's called Special Programs, and this is going to replace ESPED. We talked through and have met with Power School many times. Then I held a meeting with Power School with representatives from every building, so it was counselors, special ed liaisons, and procedural assistants, just to look through the product as well. I think the nicety of this is it is very user-friendly. It is something that can be open to parents. So far as them being able to access their students' IEPs, 504 plans, progress reports. It does have the DocuSign feature, which I think is going to help us around compliancy and making sure we're getting our documents signed and returned on time. And it has a really nice data dashboard that is going to help us as staff really see that we are in compliance with our 3-year re-evals. Are we lining up our initials on time, all of that. So we're really looking forward to that and the work that will bring. And then finally, our nurses have launched a new webpage, which I think is really parent and family user-friendly, and they're doing a lot of work around their IHP forms and procedures. We went over this earlier in the fall, but Jeriel and I are doing a lot of work again around the student support training, and I just talked about it as well prior to, but really creating that MTSS is like our new language, our new philosophy, our new way of, it replaces that RTI old model, right? And really looking at student supports as this elevator approach so that students are not, I'm this kind of kid, right? It's the services they need, and we're fluid with that. We're embedding Tier 1 supports into classrooms and training those Tier 2, Tier 3 approaches through all of the PD and work we're doing together. We also have launched Care Solace this year as our new mental health resource, and so this resource is very user-friendly. On the next slide you'll see it comes with a data dashboard. I think the nicety of this is it does replace interface, and in doing that, we found a service that's available 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. They have a pretty quick turnaround. I would say within 48 hours you hear from them. That does not mean that you have an appointment within 48 hours, but 48 hours they're working on it. They have a variety of services, which I think Interface struggled to do, that allows our counselors and admin to make referrals for individual therapy, group types of therapy, partial day placements, substance abuse treatment, and parents are able to go on and make referrals as well. The other nicety to this is it is available for all of our staff and our staff's family members as well. And I have been reassuring staff that their information, so any staff referral that's made, whether we made it on behalf of a staff or a staff member chose to refer themselves, their information never shows up on our dashboard. So these numbers are not including staff referrals. This is a snapshot. The dashboard is much more informative, but I just, for confidentiality reasons, can't put all of that up there. But our counselors have access to the more in-depth dashboard that will show when they make a student referral, where is the student in that process? So have they been contacted? Have they had their first appointment? Maybe they make the first appointment and then that isn't a great fit. So you'll see the trajectory of appointment made, not good fit, next time around. So Care Solace really doesn't stop until they feel like there's a good fit, which is really nice.
Can you just expand a little bit on what do you mean by communications saved?
Yes. So Care Solace does a lot of communication. So they will text family members or staff members to say, please give me a call, right, of I have your referral, let's talk more about what you're looking for. Their communication is so much, it might be the one downfall I'm noticing is it's a lot. And so that communication saved is just showing that if we had to go back and say, you never responded to X, Y, and Z, they can say, no, we did, we're going to pull it up, we'll show you. So that upwards, and now this is actually old data, this is from last week or whenever I made this, it's over, it's about 4,200 I looked today, is all the communication they have made on behalf of any staff, student, or family member.
Okay. And because this is our first year, we don't really have any indicators from our previous.
Correct. Yep. We're going to continue our partnership with Wellesley Center for Women for Mood Check. 7th grade has already done that. You probably have seen the notifications go out for high school. Those will be done shortly. Dr. Gladstone did a really great job of just providing some early indicators for me on what they saw this time around with grade 7. So really identifying the common stressors that came up by students are not surprising. School and social peer childcare issues and worries around the pandemic. I thought what was really great and is a really solid, which I've always known, reason to keep doing this is 43 of grade 7 students were identified of concern, and 8 of those caregivers really didn't even realize their child was in that much pain, right? So it's good that we're catching these kids. And then the third bullet I feel like is really near and dear to my heart, because it is a challenge in schools when we don't know your child is hurting and how can we help. And so we've seen an increase in when that outreach is given to parents, their response has been, please share with the school counselor so that they can work on it as well. So I just really feel like that's a real positive that came out of this early screening for grade 7 kids.
Can you point to any thoughts around why that's changed more significantly than the past, whatever, 6 years that we've been doing this program? Because I feel like before there was this discussion around, well, the reason why they don't want to share is because they want to have privacy and all these other things. And I, a number of times, had mentioned, I feel like we can support that kid with more wraparound services if we knew within the school district. So I'm just wondering if you can.
Yeah, and I would. This would be my own assumption, right? But just knowing and coming from the counseling background, right, is that I think there is a lot of destigmatization around mental health in recent years, which is fantastic. I think we have done a good job in Holliston in promoting our counseling staff and getting information out there. Our counselors are really good about reaching out to families. I think that there is this drought of clinicians out in the real world, right, beyond school. And so as a parent myself, I would say I want as much support for my kid as I can get, and that includes including the school counselor. So that is my...
They're using the resources available to them, which is great.
Right, yes, and that's what we want. So we're heading in a really good direction as far as that.
But can I just add, I think the flip side of that is also, though, the concern that school is the expectation that school is going to be the primary and fix it, because in reality, we need to make sure that we are meeting their academic needs by giving them the skills and the strategies to cope with trauma, whatever it is. And we don't want the assumption to be that we can fix a large problem. It's about communication and then helping them to find resources through places like here. So,
exactly. Yep, exactly. I kind of reviewed all of this, but these are just some just important little factors too around like the mental health supports and things we have increased. So that CBT training, I think it's important, and I know this has come up in previous years in school committee meetings of can we get more help? So we do have an increase in master's level social work interns, which is so great.
That's awesome.
And a really great learning opportunity for them. So we have 2 at Rams and 1 at the high school. A big kudos and thank you for approving the school psychologists in all buildings. We're going to look to utilize them beyond testing. We're just getting there, right? So I would love to see, and I think our school psychologists would love to see their ability to start running groups for kids and really taking that knowledge and hitting across the masses. And then our school safety committee has divided into 2 groups, so we meet regularly as a whole group, but then also dividing into like a logistics and planning, so looking at drills and safety around like the physical plant, and then we have a mental health subgroup that looks at crisis team, how are we responding to crisis, how are we help supporting kids and staff around safety issues. The other big journey we're taking is this continuum alignment. So we already have these pre-established continuums, and we call them continuums because I hate to hear that kids feel stuck in a program. But our big work is really utilizing our continuum staff to really define the description of what those continuums are. Defining what types of students, right? But knowing that there is this bubble. So we can't always say it's this exact kind of kid, but having sort of the balance or the pendulum of what fits, right? Because I think sometimes we find when students are struggling, and if we're not implementing Tier 1 within a classroom, we're quick to say, go to that continuum, right? And so we really want to build up our staff's capacity, but also be true to our continuum so we're not burning those programs out as well. So creating a really strong entrance and exit criteria. Myself and a few others have gone out and looked at multiple continuums of all measures across surrounding districts, and just working with them on what works for you, why does your continuums feel so successful, and how can we sort of adapt ours as well. You may have heard from Kelly. This is her initiative, which I really agree with and love, is we are looking to bring back, I would say bring back, because years and years ago we did have a language-based program in classroom, but we are contracting with Landmark Outreach for at least 2 years. That has, we have them in place and they are coming out. We're starting with what we have identified is the real need so far is in grades 3 to 8, where we're looking at students who are struggling. Their IQ and their cognitive ability is really high, but it's really that language and reading that they're struggling with. So a language-based program is really still teaching to the standards, but the ability in a small group setting to slow it down and really break down the vocabulary and language for them so that they're able to access and keep moving through. So we are currently looking at who we would have slated for these programs. Do they fit the model, right, based on Landmark helping us? And then training and working with our staff. So we have Landmark staff coming out and meeting and observing classrooms pretty regularly, and then pulling those teachers during PD or their planning times to work with them on what interventions and strategies could they do for the time being until we create more of a separate classroom for them.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Yep.
So it's going to be a pull-out.
More of a pull-out,
Than a push-in.
small English, small math.
Okay.
Yep.
So, just is Landmark teaching, or is Landmark observing and working with all of our staff, or all of our literacy staff,
Yeah.
or is it just like reading specialists?
Yeah,
like-
so what we identified was the small group teachers, so our sub-separate teachers essentially that are teaching small group ELA and small group math at Miller and Rams. We're kind of slowing the pace down at Rams because I think for anything, right, you want to get it right before you just keep moving the needle. So we're going to get Miller really on track, and then slowly bringing in Rams, and then we're going to kind of roll it down to Placentino, right? Because I'm hearing a lot from families around their young ones at Placentino really could be benefiting from this as well. I think what Kelly and saw through the data last year was really the concentrated need from grades 3 to 5, but now is trickling up to Rams. The final big push is just the efficiency of our supports. So you may hear us really looking at and evaluating, and you heard me say earlier, I want to help create independent learners. So really looking at what is our decision-making ways of para support for one, so who needs a one-to-one and how long do they need that for. So really making sure we're making data-driven decisions and we're collecting data and really looking at what is the benefit from having so much support, and how do we get kids as they grow to learn that they can do it on their own, right? So once we're teaching them those skills, where are they showing and demonstrating they can independently do that? So making things kind of the just right support, the same with continuums, right? That we want to make sure that our continuum feels fluid. We don't want to keep a child totally sub-separate if we know that they can be in an inclusion model, but might need a little bit of that, TLC support in the continuum as a respite. We're also looking at the two middle blocks there are kind of in tandem, so looking at our graduation track and really working with the high school and with families to say my child may need a 5-year plan, right? So don't count them out, but looking and having those open and honest conversations with families around what does it look like to get your child there. And then in tandem with that is really evaluating our MCAS versus our MCAS alt. So what I have noticed in the data is that we are over what should be like the 1% of your student body population should be taking MCAS alt. We are over that, right? So looking at why is that? What are we, how are we determining who should take MCAS alt? And really, I talked a lot about this at CPAC, is exposing students to that test is not a bad thing, right? So using from grades 3 to 8 to really expose kids, regardless, open them to that test, because we don't want to count them out, right? Because counting them out does have impact relative to a diploma track. So really working on that, and we have developed some criteria around that in addition to what DESE has put out as criteria for us as well. And then really re-examining how do we maintain and bring kids back into the district that are now out of district. So you see from my chart earlier that, you know, we do have our increase in out of district kids, and really what can we do and what should we be doing to help maintain them in the district that they grew up with, around peers that they, you know, they and probably their families really want them to be around. So, you know, we're looking at that and really looking at, you know, our transition program and how do we kind of grow that and maintain kids, but also really looking at our continuum measures. And we have these really wonderful continuums, so how do we keep kids here in district? Any questions on that? Because my last part is just to inform you about the on-site visit that's coming out, and you might have questions on that. So, yes.
I had two questions. So one from the very beginning and one at the end, but I'll start with the end. The MCAS alt, just so I understand it. What constitutes that? I heard sometimes people will read instructions or read through it or read it to someone.
Yeah.
Is that part of MCAS alt?
No, that's a great question, right? Here's where I assume people know all about MCAS and MCAS alts. But so the difference is the MCAS is the exam, right? So what you're talking about, those are accommodations that kids could get on
So
MCAS.
accommodations are not the
Right.
alternative.
MCAS alt is really a portfolio assessment. So it is a teacher putting together work samples for a student to demonstrate that they are doing the learning and teaching in school, but that they are not going to, you know, work to take that assessment, the MCAS assessment, to pass for graduation.
And I know you have another question. Does the diploma look different if they've passed the MCAS alt as opposed to the actual MCAS?
Yes, so they would not receive a
They don't get the
graduation
traditional diploma.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yes. Yeah.
So my other question had to do with the circle chart that you put together, which was great. It included out-of-district placement,
Yes.
CLL, IEP, 504s, and that data was from 21-22. But looking at it, the out-of-district placements went up 35%. And you know, IEPs looked about 6%, 504s at 28%, but that was 21-22. Did we see a corresponding decrease or I mean, what did it look like from 2021? Were these delayed evaluations and delayed out-of-district placements?
That's a great question.
So that's the first part of the question.
Yep.
The second part is, have we seen this start to turn around? I know we're only a couple months in, but are
Yep.
we on track to still have 35% increase in out-of-district placements this year and other similar increases? So what did 2021 look like, and what
Yeah.
does 22-23 look
That's
like?
a great question. I don't have the 2021 data, but happy to pull it, and it's
Okay.
really a good thing for me to examine over time. I think that the focus of our work is starting to see that the need is growing, right? So that chart, I'm going to go back to it, probably making people sick at home. Right, so that increase is we went from last year, so this year is 11 out of district kids more than last year, right? And so we are seeing that increase, and these are conversations I have had with SSAs, is an increase of 30 students now on IEPs. Why is that? Is it that there are that many gaps? Is it that, you know, I hate to say, are we overqualifying, right? Are we really looking at the data as to what a student needs and what, you know, what they're qualifying for? So I think it's really hard to tease out since COVID what the problem is, and I think we do need some time and some years to sort of look at it. I think we're hitting a steadier ground since the fall, I will say that. I feel like coming into this job and over the summer and early fall, there were a lot of things carried over from last year of kids being placed or soon to be placed. So I think that's the uptick in out of districts. I have really not had so many since probably December. So my hope, and I don't foresee too many coming up in now. So I think we're stabilizing, but I don't want to say we're in great shape, right? If that makes sense. But I will go back and look at that data because that would be interesting.
Thanks.
But from enrollment data, we've had 40 students before in out-of-district placements. Like that's been a steady
Yep.
number for a long
Yep.
time. So
Yep.
I just wonder whether it is what you're saying, which is that there was a drop-off
Yep.
from COVID, and
Yep.
then now it's bounced back up.
Yeah, very
It's
well could
more
be.
likely.
Yeah.
And I also think that you've been talking with your job alikes about this is a pattern that other districts are seeing. It's not unusual. It's still something as a state and as a district we need to get a
Yes.
handle on
Yep.
and try to see what supports we can put in place intervention-wise
Yep.
before we're identifying. I think that's what we're trying to
Yes,
figure out.
yeah. I think there's a lot we can do, and a lot of that we are doing to kind of maintain our students, but I think it's just getting everybody back on track too, and giving people grace, and people are tired, and it's hard. So it's getting things back on track for sure. Good question, though, yeah.
Well, and I also think, from a kind of a strengths perspective slant on all of this, to have an increase in identifying kids who have needs means that you're doing an amazing job identifying kids that have needs.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
So, like, you're doing exactly what we hoped and wished with all of the resources and the programs and the psychologists. And,
Yeah.
this is, that there was a drop-off during and after COVID is what the whole nation of academics
Yes.
is talking about, right?
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I'm grateful and proud of the work that you're doing to help catch the kids in Holliston that might be experiencing those losses because of this. We knew it was coming.
Yeah, right. I know. It's not really a surprise,
Right.
but I do feel like the numbers can be alarming, right? Even as I was putting it all together, I was like, whew. It's a little bit hard to see, but it is a really good thing because it means we're starting to know
Right.
who we need to help. So.
And we need to do a little better job of looking at our demographics. And if, Steve, we're seeing trends in
Yeah.
students of color or gender and all these things too, because that is a big concern at the state level as well as in our communities. So.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier today, that coming up in a part of a Director Institute and really bringing focus around like discipline and students that are found eligible and where those discrepancies are relative to race and gender and really looking at that. So that's work we're all doing, I would say, across the state. So questions about that? Yeah.
So this is a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I think it was really, really good. So I was just looking at the key performance indicators. Is it something that you administer every month? Like, how does this work? So I think
What are you looking at?
it's called Quick Review or Care Solace Dashboard.
Oh, yes, yep. Yeah, so that is updated on the regular. So that is a live data dashboard. What I wanted to do was just sort of show you what we're privy to, right? So it's a little different than how Interface worked, where that was more of like a narrative that was just given out. This is a dashboard that I can go on to. Any of us can, not any of us, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah,
It's very protected.
Right, it
Only
is
so many
very
people are
protected.
allowed
I
to
do want to reassure people. But our student supports and Susan have access so that we can go on and in a snapshot see where are areas of concern. Like what's one of the really nice things on there is the mental health breakdown and us being able to examine what are the areas so then as a counseling support staff we can begin working on our tier 1, tier 2 work around say anxiety if that's peaking or substance use. What types of substances are kids being treated for? It really breaks that down, which is nice.
Does it give you school and age groups? Things like that too?
Yes, yep, it
So you
breaks
can
it all
target.
down. Yeah,
And I
which is
think-
really nice.
And I think that's the shift we've been trying to make as a district. When Kelly was here, we talked about office as well about trying to provide more of that small group support because we see students that are identifying with similar profiles and they should be seeing that I'm not alone in how I feel and this can be a peer intervention, you know.
Is this something, like the second part is this something that the parents also share in your all the data that you have? Is it only school driven or does it also come from the parents or the guardians?
So what shows up on that data dashboard is there is a section on there that shows family referral. So say a parent goes on from home and is just saying my child's really hurting. That will show up on the dashboard, and then the counselor of that grade would be able to see, oh, Johnny was referred by a parent, which is also great because then they can do some outreach to that family. Might not even be a student they were kind of on their radar, but be able to make that connection. So yeah, so some of the data is definitely parent driven if they make that referral.
What does warm handoffs mean? I'm very curious.
Interesting. So warm handoff is simply their language on a referral. So when we make a referral, it's called we're giving you a warm handoff, care solace, to kind of help us take care of our kids. Yeah.
This came up before.
Warm and fuzzy language.
Versus like a cold call. Somebody's being introducing.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
So finally, I just wanted to bring to light, we do have our tiered focus monitoring site visit. So last year was our self-assessment. This year they will be coming out. I held our family orientation through CPAC last Wednesday, was it the 11th, where Desi did a presentation just helping parents better understand what that means. Essentially, what that means for everybody here is on the 14th and 15th, there'll be a team from Desi that comes out. They will essentially be at central office for the entire day on February 14th doing records review. So they will pull about 11 to 13 special ed files. With that, they also want that child's cumulative file. And they will look to make sure that we are in compliance with everything we need to do, which is really great. And it's terrifying a little bit, but it is really great. They've been working well with us, and it's really our way of catching anything that we could be getting better at or applauding the things we're really good at. So part of that would be that they are holding some interviews on the 15th. That would be with some SSAs, that would be with central office, a representative from CPAC so that they get parent perspective. They'll be sending out parent surveys. And then on the 15th, they will just do site walkthroughs of just our chill zones, which by DESE definition is like our timeout spaces, to make sure that we're in compliance with those and just asking questions around the use of those, how do we collect data on who uses those, and be able to show them that. And then by the end of the school year, they're able to give us feedback on that and just let us know, and we typically will share that out to all of you. So with that, I have come to the end. Any other questions that you have of me, or?
I just wanted to follow up and see, are you and Jariel still going to do some family engagement nights about, in particular, I think we were talking about PBIS and school culture stuff?
Yes, so there is one on February 8th that we will be sending out information on, and that's going to be around the Metro, the primary focus will be around the Metro West health risk data, and then what are we doing with that so that families can better understand where we're at with data and where are our concerns, where are we doing well, where do we need to do better, and supporting kids, and then giving all of you information on how you can help your kids. And then we are doing another one in March to talk about just interventions and systems in place.
Great.
Yes. Thank you. We got a little off track with holidays and all the craziness. So
Understood.
yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is great. Thank you so much,
so
Jess.
much.
Thank you. Is it reach? How's that gonna work?
Yeah.
I think that's my cue to leave.
I know.
Thank you, very nice.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, just waiting for you. Containing your packets. Containing your packets is the next two parts of the budget process. Just two summary sheets on what's involved. On there, the explanation notes, some of them you'll see an explanation for a field that there was no change in for next year's budget. The reason behind that is just maybe something that you would have a question about, or truthfully just, it would be clear if I just put something in. Like, for example, the first one there that has something on admin technology. That's all of our technology. We started lumping our technology into one basic area, and we distribute it out from there. But this way, it's all basically lumped for you. So the non-special ed, non-payroll items, I'm projecting right now, what I mean is right now, this is an ongoing, ever-changing process, of an increase of just under $100,000 or just over 2%. Many of the drivers here are related to either our contracts, like our custodial cleaning contract, utility rates. I am planning on the use of some of our one-time funds to help us through some of the increases that I am not personally convinced of, nor some of my peers or some of the people who actually know the industry they believe are going to continue at the rates that they are.
The oil rates?
I'm sorry?
The oil rates?
Oil rates, correct. Like if you look at it, when we went out to bid out in May, when the prices came in June, the rate was $4 and something or other, and we haven't paid more than $3.75 yet. We can lock in at all. The last bed of oil we purchased at $3.30. Again, the prices continue to come down, and we don't want to make a budget projection that could harm other educational areas when we do have some one-time funds that we're going to be able, that we can utilize for this. So that's one of the things we want to do there. We also, the transportation number isn't as high as it should be or could be, and truthfully the rationale behind that is we did get ARPA funds for revenue loss that I again, I've met with the budget subcommittee on this, wanted to use those here because this is, again, the time to do it. Because, as I stated earlier, our goal is to get to that, getting full day K into our budget. And we need to really focus in on doing whatever we can to get full day K. We have the availability of some one-time funds, or one-time increase, not one-time funds, but one-time increase in the levy that if we don't use or get to, we won't get in the future. So we're really trying to be laser focused here on what we're doing. Any questions at all on, on this portion of it, part two? Yes, Don?
A quick one. So online, for transportation services, what does CPI?
Consumer Price Index.
Okay.
Our contract goes up by the Consumer Price Index annually, so I have a projection in there for that. The dating of it is as of the end of January. Mm-hmm. That data won't get posted till March or February. I can't remember which month now, but so I have a projection in there for that. So is that number bus contract, or is it bus contract plus gas, or just tell me what it is? The increase is based on just the bus contract. Okay. So yes, that's again, there's a number of mechanisms that districts use when they go out for a bus bid. Some districts say, give me one price for 3 years, which means you're going to pay more in the first year than you should to pay an appropriate number in the third year. Mm-hmm. A lot of people use CPI. We're lucky enough that we're a district that pays for the fuel ourselves, so there's no taxes involved. If Holmes was buying the fuel themselves, we'd be paying tax on that. You'd have fuel escalator clauses and things of that nature, where as the price goes up, your number keeps moving. Right. So it makes it both simpler and truthfully more cost effective for the residents of Holliston. So, thank you. So, any other questions here? Okay, on to the next one. This is the special education item. Again, same sort of thing with explanation and notes, just so you have information there. The biggest drivers here, there's actually a decrease in our transportation costs year over year. Some of it was due to that we got out of the transportation business ourselves, so we were able to reduce the normal maintenance costs that we would pay for our buses. So I took again, it's a budget line item that was up higher, $25,000, and was able to lower it down. Just as we're only running a couple of vans ourselves, so there was an advantage there. In addition to that, some of the rates for the transportation routes ended up coming out cheaper. We've been able to bundle some children with other districts and been effective there. So it's It's not a good number, but it's at least, it's not as bad as it could have been. The tuition rates, as you heard from Jess, we had an increase in our enrollments, which is why the number's higher. The increase in enrollments commenced this year, which means we'll get a better, a higher amount of circuit breaker for next year. Again, we maintain or try to maintain a 1 year's balance as well. So as these rates go up, I'm again trying to protect full day K here. We're using a little extra circuit breaker money. We're making an assumption on how much we're going to receive, and then if we don't get that, we'll use some of our balances there as well.
Would we qualify for extraordinary relief?
Not even close.
Just worth an ask.
No. Yeah, it is such a high threshold. And
Yeah, I know.
In the few years I've been here, I know Jess has been here 20. I'm somewhere a little bit around there.
Yeah.
But we've only qualified once, and
I know.
it's significant. I mean, it is a 25% increase
I know.
year over year. Not on what you budgeted, but year over year. And 11 more students is not giving us 25% more expenses. So.
Wasn't there some discussion at the State House, though, about increasing this circuit breaker reimbursement?
No, what's happening the two things that have happened at the State House with regards to out-of-district tuitions. Number one, the state approved or the OSD approved a 14% increase in tuitions.
Up to a 14%. The state in 1 year would be able to increase by that number.
Yeah.
Like 705.
Which
Will that
districts
affect-
haven't planned for.
Yeah.
But as Keith will explain,
Okay.
the following year, we'll get more money in circuit breakers, so it's
Right.
potentially a 1 year bubble.
If you can, and again, I've spoken with a lot of my peers about this, again, they said, so what are you doing about it? I said, I'm using my circuit breaker reserves because I'm not going to bankrupt the
Right.
district with respect to services over a 1 year blip.
Right.
So again, and I said to them all, like I just said to you, it's the reason we're allowed to keep 1 year in reserves by statute. We're allowed to keep 1 year in reserves of this reimbursement. So that's what we do. So, and this is the exact reason why you want to protect yourself so that a spike does not, decimate your district.
Right.
The thing that they're talking about is what they've done. I have not heard anything specific with regards to increasing the reimbursement rate. It's still 75%, above the equivalent of what 4 times foundation is. They've actually locked in the number, which is actually good for districts because as COLAs go up, that number's staying fixed. So that's actually a good thing. So in some ways, there's a little bit more that way. But they're going to, the transportation reimbursement, if they have funds available, is now fully funded. Or fully available, not funded, fully available. So where they moved in at 25% a year, it was now 100% of your transportation costs, subject to appropriation, will be available to be added to your circuit breaker number. They're going to do tuitions first, and then any available money they'll then look at the transportation piece. So we may get something back from that as well. So my
In the order of how much would you think?
Well,
if we got any at all?
It could be as much as literally 75% of our out-of-district number. It's not going to be that high.
Okay.
If I was going to guess, it could be a few $100,000. But again, when you hear numbers that Jess was talking about, how all these districts are seeing this increase.
No, I know.
And with the 14% increase in circuit breaker, in tuitions, that's going to suck the possibility of tuitions dry.
Yeah.
So going forward, it will become available. And that's just, again, this is why, now is the time to use the money that's in reserve for circuit breaker, to use that now.
Right.
Because again, we don't want to decimate the district over this, just so we can maintain that reserve. That's what it's there for, so. So any questions? Okay, go ahead, John.
So under 9400,
Yep.
the collaboratives,
Yes.
what's driving that 50% increase?
Well, again, if you looked at, students move all the time. And whether they come into district, whether they go out of district, we try to direct them to we have to legally, to the least restrictive placement. So what you're looking at is it could be students who are in district, either last year and now they're out in a collaborative placement, or in this year and we're planning for them to be out in a collaborative placement. It could be a student who's coming off a day placement going down, or it could be a move-in. And I can tell you right now, there's all 3 of those in there. So. And again, collaboratives are treated a little differently, and what I mean by that is collaboratives are, they're part of us. they're a public school that are affiliated with us, so some of the rules and regulations on how children are treated, not within the collaborative, but how are treated from a financial perspective, and a head count perspective are slightly different than if they're in a pure and a true, I'm saying true, in an out-of-district placement that's not affiliated with us, in a non-collaborative placement. We do have students at multiple collaboratives, not just our 2 collaboratives that we're members of. There are other collaboratives as well, so.
I do have a question on the non-special,
Okay.
non-payroll items. 9100, the last one on there.
Yes.
You're projecting
That's
that-
rate only. The increase is only rate.
Okay, that's only rate. So if we get in 10 extra applications for Norfolk Aggie, that number's going to change, right?
That number's going to go up significantly, then
Okay,
correct.
that's just, so to be clear, that's just the same number, but
That's
the rate increase.
We have,
Wow.
again, I put in our typical number, which is 3 students. I know last year was higher, we all know that. We have 3 graduates, and I got 3 new children, and that's why it's the same number. If I had 5 graduates and 3 in, you know what I'm saying? If I had 5 graduates, the number would be down. If I had 1 graduate, the number would be up.
And do we get any input on their rate increase? Because that seems,
The rate increases, I usually project a 5% rate increase,
Okay.
which is what I did again here. It is, I don't think it's ever been lower than 3, and I don't think it's ever been higher than 6, to my knowledge or memory. It's in that range. At this point in time, it's a good conservative number to put in there. If it comes in lower, but I don't anticipate, again, seeing what the state approved for out-of-district placements, I don't see them being tight with, the voc ed programs. So.
okay. Thank you.
You said you had 3 in this year and 3 out.
Yep.
Is there another year coming that we can expect a larger number to go out? Or is it pretty much-
Our current freshman class, so next year's sophomores, was a large number. I believe it's 8.
Okay.
So we had, I think, was 10 get accepted. One chose not to go, and then another student came back. So the net, so maybe it's 9. Maybe it's 9. It's either 8 or 9. So.
We also are trying to, I've spoken with the middle school and high school principal about something that I forget one of you had mentioned about trying to do some of our middle school visits to the high school sooner. So I am working on that. I just don't have the date, because I think sometimes if students saw that there's more here than they realize, it might change their decision before they lock something in. So it's that marketing, public relations.
Right, because the open house for 8th graders at the high school is way after.
And the
Yeah.
Keep open
It
house,
should be
too.
the other way around, yeah.
Yeah, Keith's already had their open house.
Yes.
So next year, I'm going to try to move it even earlier, but for this year, I'm trying to get them to do something like very, very soon.
Right. Which, I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, I'm not saying that for certain students, agricultural education may not be in their best interest, or vocational may not be in their best interest. There are some students, but if it's not going to be one of those 2, we really need to make sure that we're the next, the first choice for everybody else. So.
I believe one of our neighboring districts actually stopped this year sending their kids to the tech school. No, a different school, but I don't want to say it because
Okay, that's
I
fine.
don't want to.
You're saying to do like the open house thing there and
Yeah,
the visit.
they are not, because they're finding their enrollment keeps decreasing.
It is a problem, because we do want to have offerings for students, but we also don't want to decimate and take away from the programs that we have that we do want to maintain here.
And I had brought that up to you, it was me,
Yes,
because I
Lydia,
had
yeah.
seen someone say like, oh, I just heard that Keefe has like a really good like computer science graphic design program. I want my kid to go there. And I was like, we have a computer science endorsement, we offer AP computer science, we offer all these programs, we have all this technology. So if they want to do that, they should come to Holliston High School.
And students have asked Leanne, I think you, at the high school level, about looking into other program offerings, endorsement type things. So I have already said to certain students, reach out and we will meet with
Yeah.
you to talk about that, because maybe we can come up with some
Right.
other things to keep in house.
And also we do have a lot of good
Yep.
stuff too.
And truthfully, if we did it earlier, we may be able to affect the program of studies to meet certain needs. If
Right.
we knew we had 10 students who were
right.
interested in X, we may decide, hey, let's offer a course next year in that X.
Right.
So the earlier we know things, the better information we can do.
Susan, just maybe something that could come up as you meet with groups of students too. Nobody does better digital marketing or videos than students for students. So if there was ever a group of high school students that could talk about some of the great things here and turn it into funny videos that we could present to our middle school, you might have someone interested within the student group that you meet with.
Definitely.
I think that's such a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. They are the best spokesperson for this, right?
And I don't think you really grasp until you get here the offering of clubs and sports and opportunities, everything from DECA to everything our drama clubs do. So the students here know about that, but they just don't know yet at the middle school.
Even the parents don't know. They're like, yeah, forever second guessing, correct?
Nope, not done.
Oh, sorry.
Not done. I get my time on camera, right?
He's reclaiming his time.
And so, yeah, I'm not passing my time. Sorry. No, my budget update. Sorry, where to go? There it is. So, again, putting our three parts together. And again, things have changed since then, so please understand this is just what we presented. So the numbers will get, as we go through the process, the numbers get firmer. You know, after this date, the next vision that you're going to get to the budget when Susan comes forward with her recommended budget. So, but for now, when we put all the pieces together, and again with a target of 2.5%, with that $650,000 in it, the target is an increase of 1.637. Right now we're at 1.620. And again, I will tell you right now, the changes that have come since then are actually higher. So again, that gap is tighter than it is there. But again, we keep working the budget throughout the whole season. As retirees possibly come forward and things like that, those will make adjustments in favor of it. So, but this is where we're at right now. So that's, again, the target, which is a 2.5% increase in our appropriation plus the 650 for getting full day K into the budget. So.
What's the next number? Sorry, what's the number below that? Why is, I'm confused by the number below it. Why is the 4.22?
That's a 4.22% increase over year over year. That the target would be a 4.22% increase in our budget.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, I'm done. I don't know if we're going to read.
Switch seats if I need to. Let me switch seats.
Sorry?
Just switch seats, Keith.
So public
there's not a
address
long
is
one here.
I don't know.
It's here. It's the first thing in general initial view of fixed costs versus target.
Oh, yeah. So go back to school justice. No, you're good. It's gonna be this. Okay, policy won't take.
All right, do you want to go back to the beginning?
Yeah, I thought we'd go back to the
Just getting us
individual.
ready.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We do not have student reps today, which is probably obvious. School committee individual comments.
Stacy and I went to see the Service Learning Community Celebration Tuesday night. Tuesday night, and that is a program that's run by Caitlin Mills as part of the Global Citizenship Endorsement Program. Although she's been running it before we had the endorsement program. It's been I think this is their 4th year. Doug Calais was there, Erica Calais was there, and who was the other?
Mrs. Shauna Frost.
Shauna Frost, right. So we saw 5 different programs that our kids are working on. I mean, they do such incredible work. And there was a comment made that they wish they could be able to do this the entire year. So they do this for just one short period of time and then it's done. But they're not done. They want to keep continuing, and some of them are working on their capstone projects. They're going to keep delving deeper. I was really impressed with each of the students and their presentations, and it's just such a great program. I'm so glad that we're doing it here. Do you have anything else you want to add, Stace?
Every year,
Yeah.
it's just wow. And this year, it was a student who was doing something with incarcerated inmates, and we said, what made you think of that?
Right.
You see a lot of let's save the environment, let's save animals, domestic violence. You see common themes. What made you think of that? And she said, actually, it was my criminology class. In that class, we tended to have a lot of debates. She said, and out of it, we were talking about what happens to inmates and how, such a high percentage, they don't have a GED or a diploma. And so she's actually working with an organization that provides textbooks to the inmates. So, it's from the classes that they're taking that it is, you guys have to go. You have to go. It is so good. Get on their Google sites. It's really
A
impressive.
little flyer, and there's a whole QR code. It's on the website.
And those 4 teachers are just so helpful to them. It really is cool. Our new state rep, James Arena DeRosa, was here. And there were some conversations, and we said, see, here's your state rep.
Yep.
Like, you can make a
Reach out to him.
change, even though you're only 16, 17 years old. So it was great. I love this program. I do wish that my own children would consider it, because it's such a great thing.
Awesome.
And then the readathons are going on at elementary and the middle school. The middle schoolers are logging in their own minutes via Google, whereas the elementary kids have their bookmarks. At the middle school, we have really cool prizes, and the 8th grade really needs to step it up and start logging in some hours there. Because, there's some, sneakers.
There's some Jordans.
There's some Air Jordans at state.
It's their choice, right? Could be dunks.
It could be dunks, but whatever. Like, start reading, 8th graders. So we're excited for
I feel
that.
like that's like a 90s thing.
It was a
No,
nice
well,
thing.
their parents.
2020
Their parents are watching.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe they want the sneakers. I don't know.
Anyways, so that's what's going on in
So,
Jordans are back.
I wanted to give a shout out to our DECA finalists from the district.
Yes.
21 of 47 competitors are going to the state level finals.
It's pretty amazing.
It's crazy. It's so awesome. Yep. So HSS DECA.
And the
Go.
descriptions were really interesting. Did you read who the finalists were? And
Yeah.
some of their
I mean,
projects?
they're
Projects.
doing such great stuff. They have like restaurant, food service, marketing, accounting services. It's just amazing. Business law management, business merchandising. It's just
Yeah.
it's amazing.
I think Taryn's going to be coming back to
and,
see us then, it sounds like.
and hopefully, we have quite a few finalists going out of state. So
Yeah, that's great.
awesome.
Good luck to all of them.
Good luck to all of you. Yes.
Dawn, did you have your hand up?
No.
Anyone else? Thank you. All right, so then let's skip back down to policy.
Okay. So I just included in the packet our school committee policy around policy adoption. I know it's very meta. Because we need to read each of our new policies twice in its entirety. So before we can waive like a third reading, and that's per our own policy, we can look at it in our policy meeting at some point about whether we want to change how we do things. But for right now, that's what our policy states we need to do. So that was just for your for everybody's information. And then we have a couple of policies we're going to do second readings for. So Minnie, do you want to? I'm happy to read them, but do you want to do yours?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Which one? DK, right?
DD and DK.
DK.
Yep.
Okay.
I can do DD.
All right. So, DD, let me pull it up. Just a second. All right. It's DD grant proposals and special reports. New policy for consideration. In accordance with state law, all grants and gifts to the Holliston Public Schools will be reviewed and accepted by the Holliston School Committee, HSC. The HSC will encourage the administration to seek and secure possible sources of state, federal, and other special funds that will enhance the educational opportunities for the children in alignment with district goals and reflect shared values. The superintendent or their designee will submit spending plans to the HSC upon request. The superintendent or their designee will be responsible for coordinating the development of proposals for all specially funded projects and for keeping the HSC apprised and updated on all such projects. The superintendent or their designee shall ensure the district has and follows a written set of procedures in grant administration that aligns with state and federal law and regulations. The superintendent and appropriate designee is authorized to sign all reports for these projects and will be responsible for the proper expenditure of funds received for such projects. Note, the Holliston Public Schools Business Office must have a state and federal grant manual with procedures aligned with state and federal law and regulation in order to comply with state granting requirements. The approval of such a document is not subject to the school committee. The administration should ensure such a document is being followed.
Any questions? Okay. I'd entertain a motion to waive the third reading and adopt the policy as presented.
Moved by Stacy.
Second by Dawn.
All in favor?
Thank you.
And you want me to read the DK as well?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Sure. The payment procedures, DK, new policy for consideration. All claims for payment for school district funds will be processed in accordance with procedures developed by the superintendent or their designee. Payment will be authorized against invoices properly supported by approved purchase orders or in accordance with salaries and salary schedules approved by the Holliston School Committee. The superintendent will be responsible for assuring that the budget allocations are observed and that total budget expenditures do not exceed the amount allocated in the overall budget from the town of Holliston. This committee will receive periodic lists of bills, warrants for payment from school department funds. The school committee chair shall be responsible for the review and approval of the warrants as correct and approved for payment. In absence of the chair, the vice chair will serve in this capacity. Warrants then will be forwarded to the municipal town accountant auditor for processing and subsequent payment by the municipal treasurer. A record for this action will be made available to the committee on the agenda of a regularly scheduled meeting. Actual invoices and statements will be available for inspection by the school committee upon request.
So you can see in highlighted in purple that we added that sentence, and Mr. Boudet felt that it was important for us to have a designated person as a second rather than just saying and designee. And it just made sense to say the vice chair, although it could be any other person if we wanted to, but just seemed to make sense from a best practices to have an alternate and that person to be the vice chair. Just made sense. So that's what we added. That was the only thing we added different from our last meeting. Any other questions about this? Nope. Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the policy DK as presented.
Second.
Waive the third reading. Yeah, I'm sorry, and waive the third reading. Yeah, I apologize.
Moved by Amanda.
Second.
All in favor?
Cool. Thank you. Okay, and then we have some revision. It says second reading, but it really should have said revision of our, because we already have this policy. It's IMG service and therapy animals in your packet. So there's a whole bunch of, there's a few like little things that we need to just kind of read over that are revisions. So I'll just read the highlighted parts for it. But what's confusing is they're highlighted in all different colors. I don't know if it shows up here.
I think it does.
Does it go in all different colors and all the way
some of it
through?
was
Yeah,
mine,
it's a
some of it
little,
was
sorry
yours.
about that, but I don't know why, it just has it, it's presented. Okay, so I'll read the first sentence. Holliston Public Schools, HPS is committed to providing a high-quality educational program to all students in a safe and healthy environment that welcomes all students of all abilities. Okay, just added that as a statement of purpose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 paragraphs down. We wanted to make sure that people understood that our therapy animals are volunteers that come to the district. They are not a program, a part of the district. So we just included some language around that. So volunteer therapy animal visits are scheduled and approved by school administration with notice to students and families. Volunteer therapy animal visits will not be provided in a classroom instructional setting. Students and staff can opt out of such visits for any reason. Originally, we had if they have allergies or fear of animals, but it really doesn't matter. They can opt out for any reason. So, all therapy animals visits require appropriate planning and mitigations to minimize allergen exposure, such as avoiding visits to carpeted areas or to rooms with upholstered furniture. And then down below, it's kind of in pink in mine. What color is it there? Oh, it's green. So on the screen in green, we just highlighted that the Department of Public Health wanted us to include a list of prohibited animals from schools. So I'm just going to read through that. Based on the Massachusetts Departments of Health and Education recommendations, the following animals are prohibited. Should be a comma there.
Yeah, that's what I was just
I was just like, I'm not
putting
having
it.
it. Thank you. The following animals are prohibited from schools within the school district. Wild animals and domestic stray animals because of the high incidence of rabies in bats, raccoons, skunks, foxes, and other wild carnivores. These animals should not be permitted in school buildings under any circumstances, including dead animals. I'm guessing that's for like scientific purposes or something. I don't know. Fur-bearing animals, in friends, pet dogs, cats, wolf breeds, ferrets, etc. These animals may pose a risk for transmitting rabies as well as parasites, fleas, other diseases, and injuries. Bats. Bats pose a high risk for transmitting rabies. Bat houses should not be installed on school grounds, and bats should not be brought into the school building. Poisonous animals. Spiders, venomous insects, and poisonous snakes, reptiles, and lizards are prohibited for safety reasons. Exceptions. Guide, hearing, and other service dogs or law enforcement dogs. These animals may be allowed in school or on school grounds with proof of current rabies vaccination. Exceptions may be made with the prior approval of the superintendent. Okay. Do you have anything else?
Yeah,
Nope.
I think I should add other exceptions may be made.
Sure. Because I already said
Yeah.
exceptions and sorry, yeah.
You're okay.
I literally copied and pasted it from there. Okay. I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions about what we've added, revised? No?
No, I think I think it's important that you clarified in here that these are volunteers, because I think there's some misconception that because staff bring in their dogs, that it's a, school
thing.
Right. Right.
And that's caused some
Right. And it's a volunteer, so they can say that they're not bringing them in at any time. But when they are, that we're going to give appropriate, alerting families that, such and such dogs will be available, in the second grade, on whatever date. But again, it's not a program through this. We're not in the business of owning a dog. The school committee is not going to own a dog. Is everybody? We're not going to own a dog. Okay. I love dogs, but we're not going to own one as part of the school. Okay. Any other questions? We don't need to do like so just. Great. I would entertain a motion to approve policy IMG, service animals or guide or assistance animals and therapy animals as presented, with the revisions as presented.
moved by Stacy.
Second by Amanda.
All in favor?
Thank you. Oh, sorry, I raised my hand. And I have JLCD, but we didn't actually have our nurse manager with us at our meeting that just took place before this, so I'm going to hold on that, and we'll do it at our next meeting, hopefully. just has some revision. It's not a second reading, it's just a revision and clarification. And then I'm done.
Moving right along. Dr. Kuska?
Yes, I think I may have mentioned it before, but I just wanted, we're working on a dashboard. Now that we're not doing our COVID dashboard, we're going to be putting together a bullying and hate speech dashboard because, we're trying to find a balance of being transparent and incidents happen, but also not shoving it in people's faces, for lack of a better expression, because sometimes we're re-stressing our students and families. But I want to have it available so that when we're going to be updating it by month, and you show that we don't have a huge number of incidents that we're getting documented related to bullying. Might be alleged in some cases, but after investigating, we have very few that have been determined to actually be bullying. And then with the hate speech, you've heard us talk about that, and we want to be able to capture those numbers and also come up with a plan to continually address how we're going to hopefully decrease those numbers. So I want to come up with thought that might be a way to have that as something that's being updated monthly, but then it's not going to be sent out all the time. It's going to be on the website so people can look at that whenever they want to.
When you say bullying,
Yes.
are you talking about a legal term, or are you talking about the way people use bullying? Like, oh, that kid's a bully.
And it is a
have
legal
to have that
term.
conversation because.
And that is exactly so on the top of our, and that's why I haven't, finally I have all the data, and it's, like I said, the numbers are not as large as people are going to think, and people are going to question that, but it is a legal definition, and we work with our legal department to make sure we're complying with that. There are a lot of things that people allege as bullying that upon investigation don't rise to the level of bullying. It doesn't mean they might not be doing inappropriate behaviors, and there might still be consequences, but it would not be showing on the chart. So we will have that legal language up there so people understand. It doesn't mean we're not taking other incidents seriously. It's just those seem to be the two that people really ask us about the most right now.
And I do think we have to do a little education around that. Just from, I think people yes, a student can be completely inappropriate, unkind, call it what you will, but it's not necessarily bullying. And I just think we need to educate around that.
Yes. And we also just had our legal counsel. We have our two legal counsels. We have Andy Waugh that works with us, and then we have Katie Minolt. And Katie does a lot of our student updates on not policies, but legal compliance with the new regulations for student behavior and discipline. And she's helping us with when we keep up an update Title IX and civil rights things as well. So we will be bringing to policy. She has shared with us a recommended policy for updating student discipline. And with the new changes, we want to make sure we're in compliance with that. So that will go into the next policy meeting and coming back to you as well. And then I have a number of quick things. I just want to mention in the last 2 weeks, I've had advisories at all 4 buildings, and kind of the favorite part of my week, especially on a difficult week. Yesterday, I met with my pre-K2 population, and they're great, and I'm finding the things that I'm hearing at all 4 buildings. I'm hearing a lot of the good that's happening, and then I'm hearing some of the things that we know that we're still trying to address, and what can we do better. And even our preschoolers are able to capture that with me. And this particular group, I think it's my second or third time I've met with it's the same pre-K2 population, so they're getting more comfortable and sharing. And obviously I enjoy it a lot, but it's really about helping me. How can I help pre-K to 12? And that's my message to the students. What can I do to help align things pre-K to 12 so that students feel safe and supported and we're getting student voice? So that's been a lot of fun. I've also started holding my office hours with staff at all buildings, and I will be having, I've had one at Miller and the Rams last week. It's been a lot of meetings. So I'm continuing those as well, and the staff I'm in the buildings a lot anyhow, but I want to make sure that they can just reach out to me, and if they can't find a time to meet me on the days that I'm there for the full day, that I want them to schedule one-on-ones or small groups that they can come to my office as well. We are also working on, as a district leadership team, we're working on our next community newsletter, which will have captured a lot of the new things I've been talking about tonight, and we're going to try to get that out right after the next school committee meeting, because we'll be having our priority needs discussion on February 2nd, as well as our mid-year goals updates to you. So then the newsletter will hopefully be ready to go out the following day with links to some of those documents as well. school year calendar. Joni and I have been working on a preliminary draft of school year calendar. I will give you a copy to take with you tonight. You'll see the template is lovely, a lot of work on Lisa DeLuzio's part, and it's just a preliminary draft trying to plug in PD dates and so forth and holidays, and 2 of our holidays that we celebrate when they fall are falling on weekends now, so that will mean it will hopefully lead us to not as late of an end of the school year, which is great, and also be able to recognize the holidays that we voted to include for staff and families. So I'll get that to you, not asking you to do anything tonight, because we'll bring that up for discussion at the next meeting, and knowing that's always subject to change throughout the year when other dates come up, like Joni's still working on the half-days with the principals as well, right? So hopefully we'll plug those in for you for the next meeting, and if not, the following meeting.
Can you just clarify about the PD though, specifically the PD? Is there still the PD council, and are you getting feedback from the teachers? Because
Yes. Yes, so Joni meets regularly with that group, and then I ended up joining the meeting with the team 2 weeks ago or last week, and we talked about priorities of the PD Council. How are we meeting, like looking at an equity lens, should we be changing how we're doing PD? Because we want to make sure we're getting a lot of offerings for staff, but I also worry about the half days for students, and are we getting enough time for students? So it was that conversation, and then they shared some information with me. So at this point, Joni and I are not looking to change the structure. We have currently, the first day for staff is a full day, which is not PD, but it's our opening day and half day for getting rooms ready. And then we have 3 full-day PDs and 4 half-day PDs for staff. And Joni will tell you more about, after next week, after our January 27 PD is going to include a full day with our all staff, including paraprofessionals, which is new this year, that we've added 2 6-hour days worth of training for our paraprofessionals as well.
Take that a little bit further. PD council members always get the feedback from our professional development days, and they're able to analyze that themselves. And then at our meetings, they bring out themes or something they've seen that they want addressed.
do they communicate that with the teachers?
What I was told by them is that they
Right.
were going to go back to their
Correct.
respective buildings and get feedback and then report back to us, which we did get a written report from them. So I have to assume that's what we were told they did. I have to trust that they did what they promised. So I can't say that every single person is responding. I mean, I don't know how they're communicating to staff, but that is their plan and goal, and that's what they do.
So you're not planning to change to full day, half day? You're just going to keep with the blended?
That was a discussion we had, whether we wanted to go back to 4 full days so that we weren't having so much disrupted to student schedules, because then aligning from an equity perspective. But I think for next year, we're going to stick with leaving it the schedule that we currently have. I do want to think about next year, though, surveying parents a little bit more as it's ongoing to talk about that, because when I look at the calendar, it just there's a lot of colored out time, and I always want to be mindful of families. For example, if they're a low-income family and then there's another half day for them to get daycare and things like that when they're working. So trying to figure out the balance to make sure we're giving staff what they need, but also hitting the time on learning needs of students to an optimal. Even if we're above state limits, we want to be optimal for all students. And then I also just think of students that might have financial struggles. When you add these half days in, it's more time to fill in for daycare. So how do you balance all of that?
We're going to be gathering more data so we can analyze, what works better, full days, half days, combination. We need to look at that. So next year will be a lot of data collection.
Yep. Equity audit, I just want to give a quick update. You've been hearing, so I just remind it to all of you, I think you're scheduled for next Monday, the 23rd. I heard from one of our community stakeholders that attended the community forum last night that person felt it was very well represented, and just the discussion was great. So you'll be sharing your input on the 23rd. Staff are being interviewed as appropriate related to their roles, and we're moving forward. And as soon as I have more updates on future timelines, I'll share that out as well. Jess Beatty's Q&A night. I hope you've seen that on January 25th, we'll be hosting here in the library from 6 to 7:30 a Q&A night, where I didn't want to call it a meet and greet because most people know Jess since she's been in the district for 22 years, but I want them to be able to ask questions of her in her interim role to determine whether or not, I certainly think she's doing a great job, but I want to hear community feedback, and then we can determine our next steps with that position as well. And Oh, I just wrote down the 2/8 family night, which I think Jess had already referenced as the next family engagement night. And that's it.
Great. Any questions? Okay. Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction.
Yes, I have quite a few announcements. So I just wanted to do a huge shout out to Taryn Lang and the work that she's doing in her Intro to Business class. Dr. Kuska and I had the pleasure of attending student presentations this week. She went in the afternoon, I went in the morning. Phenomenal job. It's project-based learning at its best. Students really working on a self-identified project, doing the research, reporting out, making recommendations, and having to do time management, presentation skills, all of those things. So huge shout out to Taryn. Not only do we have tiered focus monitoring that Jess is doing on February 13th, as I've mentioned before, we have tiered focus monitoring for English learners that they're virtually interviewing a lot of people here. Just as Jess said, we will receive a report that we will share out with all of you, but I think it's closer to the fall that would be receiving that. We will be having a Safe and Supportive Schools presentation, DESE Safe and Supportive Schools presentation for 5th and 6th grade parents, a virtual presentation which is still being planned with DESE, and it will be in February. And it will talk about 5th and 6th grade learning standards and what the expectations are from the state that we need to do. Really incredible announcement I have that we just found out that the high school has earned the College Board's AP Computer Science Female Diversity Award, and it's for expanding young women's access to AP Computer Science A. This award acknowledges 1,105 schools for their work towards equal gender representation during the 2021-22 school year. Holliston is one of only 209 schools to be recognized for receiving this achievement. That's great. So huge. To go back, Amanda, you had mentioned earlier about what we do here for computers, so that's just one example, right, that we were recognized for. I sent an invitation to all of you. You are warmly invited on January 27th to come to our keynote speaker. This has been a true collaborative effort, and on January 27th we have a day called Sharing Professional Authentic Relevant Knowledge, and it stands for SPARK. And it's really, we're going to focus on ways we strive to engage our students as global citizens, innovative thinkers, effective communicators, and lifelong learners who exemplify strong character and life-balanced lives. I'm incredibly excited to say we have 75 breakout presentations. Wow. Those are all done by our staff, other than 2 sessions from the speaker. So hugely proud of this, and if Dr. Kuskin can bring up, or oh, you know what? I can bring up, just a second. Do I need to? I just very quickly want to show you the platform that Tina Cordes, Sarah Kuhn, and Winnie Curie have developed. I am sorry, and let me show you this. This is a platform they built. You guys can see this went out to all staff. Whoops, it's going up.
Yeah, plugged in well.
You're igniting a spark.
I am igniting a spark. What is going on?
I don't know, it just might be a loose connection.
Okay, I apologize, but
Start clicking, keep going.
wow, okay.
Anyhow, I think
Plow through it.
she'll share through, after we have the 27th, we can share more specifics
Yes.
about the different offerings, but
I did want to share though something here. You can see real quick, you guys can see that we have
You have like a true conference schedule there. with
Yes.
Floor plans and
It's a
everything.
lot. I
know, look at
That's
that.
impressive.
this was an
That's
impressive
pretty
amount of work,
impressive,
and I have
yeah.
to, Joni and Dan McLeod worked extensively on putting this all together, and then obviously our tech staff that supported this
and curriculum
new process, and
coordinators.
curriculum
Yes.
coordinators with the work.
But you can see we have 5 sessions after the keynote. There are 15 offerings at each session. So it's incredible. We are going to be at the high school. It'll be a jam-packed day full of incredible opportunities. And these are based on what teachers have identified as needs in our district that they would like to share, and students' expertise. We do have the only other outside vendor that's coming in is Renaissance. I'm sorry, I'm making it sick at this point. I don't even know what's going on.
That's all right. Well, we can share more about that after the fact, too.
Right. But very proud of that. 75, and the last time we had it was 45. So people really stepped up to the plate, sharing their expertise. This is the agenda for the day. As you can see, everything has been tied. If you can just click on that one of like the column, yep. If you can open it up. Okay, so yours is, but it does spell out the arches in our strategic plan. It's tied to, and it also ties, if you scroll over, it ties to the arches in our strategic plan and also DESI's high quality initiatives that we're
This
making.
is a ton of work, and I hope people are starting to see that we really are invested in making sure that we're sustaining this over multiple years and connecting it back to the vision and mission of our strategic plan.
And peers will be joining us for the day, so very excited to have them part of it.
It's an incredible amount of work, and this is very exciting. Very well laid out.
It is, yeah.
And so we get to come to the keynote, right?
Absolutely.
Is there coffee?
Yeah, right. Teachers don't get free coffee.
They do.
Teachers don't get free anything.
No coffee in my auditorium.
Two other things, and I know trying not to be speaking tonight, but there were two announcements that I did forget, and one of them was that we just had our Project 351 Grade 8 Class of 2023 Student Ambassador appointed, which is Sally Hebert. So she's working, some of you recall, Michaela Campbell, who was our 2014 ambassador, is now working for Project 351 at the state level. So she sent us a picture of a meeting, and she's going to be mentoring Sally in this program. And then Sarah Kuhn and our two high school students attended the first full day, December 10th, I think it was, at the Celtics Arbac, what do you call that, Red Arbac Stadium?
At the Arbac Center
Center.
in Holliston or Brighton.
So they spent a full Saturday there, and the two high school seniors I met with last week, I'll share more about the work that they're doing, but they are going to be the trainers. They're going to be training our middle school students. So once I know more about that, the goal is that peer training, and this is something I've talked to them when I had my high school student advisory about the importance of those peer interactions. I said, you can influence your younger students in the district and your peers more than we can as adults. They'll listen in a different lens. So I'm really excited about the Celtics playbook, which is part of Project 351, but it's a very elite, even more elite group because it's a much smaller group, and that we're fortunate enough to have the opportunity to get our students trained. They're juniors, so they'll be with us next year as well, and they'll be doing work this spring and next year, so that's really exciting as well. And then I didn't know if you had any other announcements, Mr. Boudet?
Are you done, Joni?
Yes, I am.
I just have three quick things. Number one, the FOB project starting again next week at the high school for next week and the week after the middle school. We're actually a couple of weeks ahead of when they originally said. I think they're squeezing us in between jobs again, which again, that's a good thing that they understand what we need. So hopefully sometime maybe after February vacation we'll be fully operational and ready to go with that. Tied to that, we're actually getting prices right now to meet one of Dr. Kuska's desires, is seeing what it's going to cost us if we replace all the lock cylinders at the Plastantino, Miller, and middle school to have one key district-wide for exterior doors. So finding out what that is. It's the advantage of having a locksmith on campus that could make it happen quickly as well. We also met today with James Keith, the town's facilities director, just to find out where we could work together on some projects together, where he could help me out with some things based on timing of things. So we're moving forward with some things like that. So it's a big plus there. And then the third thing is that the monthly financial reports in your packets is not on the agenda, so it's an item of information. I'm not reading it. I'm not talking about it. If you have any questions about it after reading it, please just email me or give me a call.
But we did, I'm going to circle back to one of the things we did talk about with Travis and James today, is he's going to take the torch and try to get together the proposals to get our Miller pricing on that replacement portion.
Yep, we're going to work on that,
So
yep.
Keith and James are going to work on that together, and we're going to really try to collaborate more and partner in some of this work. So I think that'll be really good and more efficient moving forward.
Right, oh no, it takes some of the burden off, some of these bidding issues, because he has certification and he's taken the training in it, so, so he can replace me in some of those areas. That'll free up some more time. So.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Anything for personnel?
Be non-collaborative and stuff.
No, I don't.
Of course.
All right, subcommittees, communications.
Communications, we had a brief meeting on January 10th. We were looking ahead to put together a newsletter. One thing we want to talk to the entire committee about is obtaining dates that we can do coffee hours or open. We can get together in groups to do hours to talk about the budget, because as you see, the budget's slowly coming together. After tonight, and then we also have our February 2nd priority needs presentation. But I would anticipate that we want to start selecting dates. Did we say something?
We usually do it for March, like
For
late
March,
February and
right.
March.
But
usually.
we'll come to, at the next meeting, I think you should try and identify some Saturdays, some Sundays, some weekday evenings that you would be available, and that way, we were hoping in our February 2nd meeting to nail those dates down and then include that in a newsletter that goes out, because then we'll all be out for February vacation, and we want to make sure we have those dates publicized, published for people, so that we have it set up for March.
Yeah.
Is that for the office hours?
Yes,
For
for
our
us to do our office
yes.
hours, which you typically do at like Coffee Haven or at Casey's. We've done it at Anthony's on the Green. What's that? Blue. Yeah. Sure. Any of those places.
That's what it's called now.
Oh, it's called Blue Moon?
Yeah, because
It
they
just.
retired.
Bought Coffee Haven.
They're part owners.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? When did this happen?
Very
Live under a rock? Yeah, I guess I do.
What's the name of it now?
Blue Moon. Not Coffee
Blue
Haven.
Moon.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was another place that I was like, I don't know that place, but. So it doesn't have to be a Saturday morning. It can also be like a Friday morning or a Thursday evening or.
And usually we try and do this like pair up
Yeah,
or
we pair up
as a
twos and
trio.
threes so you can meet with people.
So bring dates to the next meeting.
Got it.
Okay.
All right. Policy?
We've set up some other dates for some other meetings.
Great.
So,
In addition to having a meeting, as you heard, our next meeting for policy
Oh, yes, February 6th,
is February
February
6th.
6th,
7:30 to 9.
a.m.
AM.
Yes, AM,
a.m.
7:39 AM. We're all going to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed first thing in the morning.
Maybe bushy.
All right.
It's followed by March 9th.
Budget?
Isn't it a Monday?
Budget, we had a brief meeting on Tuesday, January 10th. Our next meeting is February 1st at 11 a.m.
Superintendent's eval, tentative meeting next week. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be switched or not, but for right now, it's scheduled for next week,
Yeah,
What's the day?
the 23rd.
23rd, we are not really sure we can have it, right?
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
And school start times, we don't have any updates since the update I gave at our last meeting. Old business? Nothing? Correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, new business. Westboro request for accept membership.
Yes, so as you know, we are part of the Accept Collaborative and the Tech Collaborative, and I'm the chair of the board at the Accept Collaborative and sit on the other board as well. But the Accept Collaborative has been approached in recent months by Westboro Public Schools to partner and become a member of the collaborative, and we met as a board and we agreed that we would support Westboro joining us. I think it's just another networking group, and then they can access the services. They can already access the services, and they They won't get the discounted rate that we get as member districts yet. I think it's the following year they will, so next year they'll go in and I think it's a 10%, and then it goes to 5%. I think it's a 10% rate that they pay, and then it's a 5% discount after that, and they get back to what all of our districts pay to be members of the district, of the collaborative. So it is my recommendation that you vote. Each of the school committees that are part of ACCEPT do have to vote to approve another entity to join, and it's my recommendation that you do so. And also, I'm not doing it now, but Wayland Public Schools has recently asked similarly, but because of the timing, you won't hear about them later, but I just figured I'd mention it, that you might be hearing me come back, that Wayland Public Schools is also looking to partner with ACCEPT Collaborative in the future. So if somebody wanted to make a
Would someone like to
motion or
make
have
a
questions.
Move to vote in favor of the Westboro Public Schools access to the ACCEPT membership.
Second.
Moved by Cynthia, second by Minnie. All in favor? Welcome, Westboro.
Thank you. I will let.
Not yet, thanks everybody.
Well, well, as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
Welcome from Holliston, anyway. Sharing is caring.
All right. Discussion of the high school block scheduling. Do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So I asked for this to be on the agenda just because this is something we've talked about. It came up in the strategic plan, and I know that it's something that hasn't been really evaluated much since '97 when it was implemented. We got some feedback on the strategic planning survey that people weren't happy with the current schedule, and I just wanted to start the discussion of gathering some data, thinking about looking into, are folks happy with it? Because it doesn't seem like many are, or it seems like many are not, and thinking about what to do. So I did send you guys a document just looking at other schools around, like basically any school I could think of that was near us. So 22 schools. Ashland and Natick have 4 periods a day, but they have all the classes all year. They have like an A day and a B day. So they'll have like
I was going to ask you about
their
what that
first
means.
4 periods on Monday and Friday, and then their second 4 periods. So your classes, each class meets like not every single day. And other than those 2 schools, all the other schools have 5, 6, or 7 periods a day. I taught at a school with a 4x4 semesterized block for like 6 or so years in the very early 2000s. It was very popular then. Many schools were going towards block scheduling, as did Holliston in like the late 90s. But since then, pretty much everyone has gotten rid of it. And I think some of these reasons are, in the 90s, schools didn't offer as many AP classes as they do now, and it wasn't the norm for kids to take more than 1 or 2 APs. Whether or not we agree with that race to nowhere, it is happening, and with our block schedule, our kids don't have the opportunity to take as many APs. Whether or not we think it's a good idea for kids to take that many APs, it could be a reason why Holliston may be falling behind and our rankings are dropping, because our AP enrollment isn't able to be as high. Something else that's recent is our pandemic. Obviously, block scheduling did not go well with becoming remote, because in March of 2020, when we shut down, many kids had only started classes at the end of January, so they didn't take those courses for more than like a month or 2. So for example, if you had Spanish second semester in 2020, you only had it for 2 months. But the other half of the school had it in the fall. All those kids went to the next course, and they had very, very different experiences. Now, we're out of the pandemic, thank goodness, knock on wood, it won't happen again, but we are still seeing a lot of need for extended absences. You have to be out for 5 days if you have COVID, RSV, whatever, which is like, in our schedule, it's like being out for 10 days, right? Because each semester is only that. Another thing that's kind of recent, and something we found in the data, once again from the strategic plan survey, is kids not necessarily feeling connected with adults in the building. I'm a teacher, as you all know, And it usually takes until at the very least Thanksgiving, more so usually like December, to really develop that connection and get to know your classes and develop that community and the connection with the students where they feel comfortable talking to you. And in Holliston, you're just getting to that level, and then everything switches and the kids have 4 new teachers. So as far as developing those trusting relationships, it's harder to do.
If you're a term class, then.
Yeah.
It's even worse.
It's even harder. So the connection to teachers takes a hit. And I know that, and another equity thing is just little things. Obviously, I'm a math teacher, so math is probably the thing that's the most difficult because it's so like sequential. Some kids, like seniors that take pre-calculus, if they don't have it till the spring, they don't learn that content in time for the SATs. Some do and some don't. So there's a fairness thing. That's pretty much it. I know that the focus of this, or when people who are in favor of block scheduling say like, well, it's less stressful because the students only have to worry about 4 courses at a time. But from talking to some kids, some think that it's actually more stressful because they are bombarded with so much content at once, since it's twice as fast. They have tests every week because they have to have a certain number of tests to cover the content. And so the fact that they're being bombarded with so much material at once ends up almost being more stressful because they don't have that time to like take it home and process it or ask questions, as well as like if you miss a day of school, it's awful because you miss so much. So anyway, these are just some of the issues, but this is from informal data, strategic plan data, and my own personal experience as a teacher. So I do think more data needs to be collected, but I do think this is a pressing issue. I will also say, like, obviously, none of these schools have it. If you talk to anyone in education and you say, we still have block scheduling, they're like, what? It's really antiquated, and like it was a trend in the 90s that no longer exists anywhere but Holliston.
So because it came up in the strategic plan, this is something that will be addressed partially during the equity audit. And at the end of the year, hopefully they might have some recommendations based on that, or they may not have enough information, and we could still determine if the school committee wanted to do a larger study on it. So that conversation can continue. I will say, interestingly enough, when I met with high school students last week, this topic actually came up because we were just talking about final exams and schedules and different things. And somehow the schedule some of the kids brought up the points that you were making. One student was saying to me that they really liked having less things to have to focus on and carry less materials and things like that. We talked about world languages. I always bring up math because I brought up before about if you had math in the fall and not in the spring, not in the fall again, it could be a full year, and the sequential nature of that, you could lose a lot of ground. Students, and I also thought of world language, and students actually brought up world language to me as well, saying, similarly, if I have French in the fall, none in the spring, none in the fall, again, I go a full year, and if I'm not speaking French or Spanish outside of school, regression in that area. So those are some of the things from the student lens. And AP classes, if you're taking it second half of the year, you may not have covered the material, and you're hitting the AP classes earlier in the spring. Or similarly, if you took it in the fall, you might not be reviewing that information and then have to. So there's a lot of those things. And I think that it'll be interesting what students say, because we do have a group of high school and middle school students that are being interviewed, and I imagine that'll be a question that will be addressed in that group as well.
And students have shared with me they felt limited because they weren't able to take
as many offerings.
Right, because you only have those amount of choices. So that would be interesting to dig into too.
I think there's plenty of pros and cons to both. I think we need to be very careful about how we do this and what is our end goal. And I think, is it to take more AP classes? Because now we're turning into the race to nowhere schools.
Yeah, but we can't, if every other school is racing to nowhere, then that's not fair to our kids to not let them be in the race to nowhere. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying, we had 2 years worth of Holliston Innovates, and we're not going to race to nowhere. And so I feel like as a school committee, we're sending mixed messages a little bit. So I think we need to really figure out what we really want and need. I'm not opposed to AP classes. Am I opposed to making it so that my kids are going to take 8 AP classes in a high school career? Maybe. What is our end goal? Does it match with our vision of a graduate? Does it fit with our strategic plan? I'm just saying we need to be very, very mindful about how we go about getting the information.
we have tons of alumni who have gone through block scheduling. Did it work for them? Did it help them? Was it terrible for them when they got, to the next level?
Yeah, and I think that's why, for the purpose of the equity audit, it's strictly about equity for students, and that's comes in a variety of ways, and they'll share that, they'll be making a recommendation of some sort, may say do nothing, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
But I certainly, it would not be my recommendation to do anything at this time, and if you were to take recommendations later, it would be to then put together a committee, if you were even wanting to go that direction.
But it's not just the equity audit issues.
Right. No, I'm just saying the lens that we're taking with the equity audit is specific to equity. You're bringing up some other items.
That will just provide information for us to move forward if we want to.
I just want to be clear too that I suspect that a move from 4 blocks to having 7 or 8 periods, it's not just about the APs. There are kids who get to their junior and senior year and can't fit Spanish, a language they've been taking since 3rd grade, into their schedule. So they have to take it remote. Imagine not taking Spanish for a year, and then your last 2 terms here, you're taking it remote, and that happens. And there's kids that are locked out of taking a number of classes, and I'd be very interested to see if this would make more classes available to more students. I think that's
Like
incredibly
chorus or music,
Yes,
they also
in fact,
have to
chorus and band run during DSB.
Right, that
So
is,
if that's your passion and that's something you want to do, you're also missing out on time to get extra help with teachers
Or
and
support
also
services.
student council. Other groups run during DSB. So now you have to choose between your band and chorus class and participating in those activities. So I think a move from 4 to more blocks actually I'd like to see how it would impact the availability of students to get into the classes they want, and for kids that are in things like band or chorus to be able to be part of more programs and access help.
Yeah. Another thing, 2 other things is that when it comes to comparing the 90s to now and the race to nowhere and everything, the neuroscience, the mind, brain, and education, we know that kids learn better. We all learn better if you sleep in between chunks of information, right? So if you learn something and then sleep on it and then learn it again, and that's the whole idea behind spiraling, is that you come back to it. So if you learn something in a bigger chunk, you don't retain it as well. But also the sort of the other side of the AP argument, there are students for whom the block is a really long time, right? And so I think that it would behoove not just because I hear the argument about the race to nowhere and not trying to fit in more APs, but I think it's way, way bigger than that. I think there's a lot of kids for whom
that's just for
block scheduling it's really hard. It's really hard to be in one class for that amount of time.
Yes, I agree.
And it also made me think when you said the service learning students wish they could stay in it. Like, what if it was a year-long class? Then they could stay in it and they could build those relationships that you're talking about, Amanda. But not only with their teacher, but also with their agency and the people at that agency. I think it can be really beneficial in that way as well.
I think the kids also form better relationship with other students in their class because they get to spend more time, because that also keeps switching so frequently. Like every 3 months they have a new set of students that they interact with, and then before they can form that meaningful relationship, even if it's one or it's just academic, it just again switches to something else. So yes, I think there's a lot to unpack there.
So I think this is the beginning of a much longer conversation.
Yep. One thing I'll share just as a link at the bottom of the document I shared, it's a survey that Norwood High School conducted about schedules. If anyone wants to take a look, just for an idea of a school that has recently done this and some data that they've taken about students, like from their Norwood High School students, what they said. So. Just for our future work. That's something we could like.
Did you have the Norwood schedule there too and available?
No. It's not linked for some reason. I'll add it.
Like it shows the
So anyway, I'm happy to lead up a group of creating a data collection tool, or, I don't know, Mike, it's really a question for everybody as far as what are anyone's next steps, if any. Dawn?
Well, looking at what you provided regarding Norwood, they did it in 4 phases. The first phase being conducting a needs assessment of the schedule, and then second phase, research options that other schools have used to address their own needs. Phase 3, develop, examine, and solicit feedback regarding potential options for a revised schedule. And phase 4, recommendations for schedule implementation. Kind of like the outline of this, but what are our next steps? And you provided some of the data with researching options other schools have used, but how?
So I have a question. Do we know any school that used to have block scheduling around us and then they switched over to regular, like, the 7, 8?
I know the school I used to teach at in Boston did.
They switched. So, I mean, that would be a good start to why they switched and if they have seen any changes and if they feel that that's been an effective change and would they go back and do it all over again. So I think that might be a good start.
I don't know if it matters necessarily whether you're going from a block schedule or just any scheduling big shift. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if it matters whether they used to have block schedule or not. It might just be, so for example, like Newton did a whole huge change of their schedule because they wanted to extend a longer day and have different blocks during the middle of the day. And they spent in addition to changing their school start times, so they spent 5 years putting this together in terms of research. I don't know what their actual schedule is right now off the top of my head, but they did do that work pretty recently.
Yeah, so I mean, we could take different points. I mean, but that would be a start, right? Because that would be the closest thing that we would have changing from the block to any other if we ever decide to change. But yeah, all of the research tools, I think those schools, the changeover schools might be a good idea.
Well, yeah, and research, in general, research like what Catherine brought up, this is like more your area of expertise, but like the reason that no one does it anymore but Holliston is based on research. So exploring that research would be another next step, I think.
Maybe they're simultaneous. Look at other towns and the research.
Is Holliston the only town in Massachusetts?
No.
Or the one
I'm sure it's not the only town in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I just looked at every town I could think of nearby.
Okay, all right.
But countering some of that, like challenge success, that their schools and their partnerships with other schools, their focus has been to shift people towards block scheduling, interestingly enough. So in that, anti-race to nowhere mentality. So
Well, right.
there's competing data
right.
on both sides of that.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say. So
Right.
it's not just
Because it wasn't just about teaching for 80 minutes. It's there's teaching and then you're doing more
and
of
there's
the
like 4 or 5
project
year
Yeah,
homework
I mean,
every
there's a
day.
lot of research.
project-based.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to a colleague who's the principal at a urban school near Boston who is a big fan of block scheduling in conjunction with a whole revamp with like all these different interventions. This is a very different population than Holliston.
Mm-hmm.
Different interventions, differentiated, switching classrooms, like all this stuff. There's lots of research, but I guess like I know we do a lot of project-based learning in Holliston, but is every class doing it every day, or are they just doing classwork and then like they're done after 55 minutes and then kids just kind of go on their phones for the last 20 minutes because it's too much for a kid to sit there and take notes for 80 minutes.
Well, and doing away with block scheduling doesn't mean you do away with project-based learning.
No, and most of these schedules have certain blocks throughout the week. So in researching what would be the best schedule for Holliston, we would need to ask questions like, how many days per week, ideally, would the science teachers like
Yeah, I
a
was gonna
longer
say
block to
science,
do
yeah.
labs,
Yeah, yeah.
or an art teacher like a longer block to do projects like that. Like the school I work at now, we have 5 periods, we have 7 periods, but we only see 5 a day, and 2 out of 5 of the blocks are 80 minutes. So you see your classes for blocks periodically. So it gives opportunities to have all that great like long-term project-based stuff. It's just not every class every day.
What are the other 2 blocks, like what are the other 2 pieces for? So if you have 7 periods, 5 of them you're in a class, what are you doing the other 2
No,
periods?
kids take, 7 classes, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah.
But on each day, you only see 5 out of that 7. That's it.
It's a rotating schedule.
So 2 periods drop per day. It's a rotating schedule. So like today, I didn't see my D period class because it wasn't on the schedule, you know what I mean? So there's a 7.
So is that like is it called a waterfall too in some places?
It could be, but that is not a waterfall. That's that's different, but that's one way of dropping certain blocks a day, which many schools have. And the good thing is, it's very easy to research lots of options because you can just look at a school's website and see what their schedule is. And think about a solution that would work best for our needs based on what the teachers want, what the students want, and things like that.
So I know that Sherborne and Wayland do a lot of project-based learning, and I don't know what schedule they follow.
They don't have a block. They're on my list.
Yeah, I think Sherborne probably is. Dover Sherborne.
No. They have, Dover Sherburne has a rotating 8-period schedule where they see 7 periods a day.
Yeah, so they have, I know that they have a lot of project-based
And
learning.
Wayland has the same 8-period schedule, 7 periods a day.
And Wayland also has a lot of project-based learning.
Yeah, and they both have 7 periods a day.
Amanda, is it also, do we have a sense of like how long the length of day is for them? Because we have literally in Holliston like the state minimum of
I did
time.
not look into that. I assumed that there wasn't that much variability in the length of
But
day.
there may very well be.
But that's a very
because we
good
have
point.
like the state minimum and other towns have a 7-hour day or more.
So what do they have? Like typically 50-something minutes of period? Like, period? Like, what's
It
an
depends
average?
on the school. So I don't know what the average is. Many schools, and this is an option, not every class of the day is for the same length of time. So certain periods are longer blocks, and it switches which classes. So on Wednesday, you might have math for 80 minutes, and on Thursday, you might have art for 80 minutes. So some of the time, the periods are 50, and some of the time, they're longer. That's another model that
Can
is
you
a
get a copy of
possibility.
those contracts too?
Yes.
Yeah,
Seriously,
Yeah.
It is all
That's the
public.
issue.
So
That's
contract, I know, is another big issue, so obviously, whatever we do needs to really be in conjunction with the staff and teachers.
I mean, I think that's where, once we get the research, if we have something substantial, probably that's when we want to.
Yeah, so what do you all think? I mean, Amanda could do some research, but it's me, Amanda, but it seems to make more sense instead of, I don't know. I don't want to go behind everybody's back.
I think it's really interesting how Norwood did a student survey and had a series of student focus groups. Because it's the high school we're talking about. It's not where this isn't school-wide, this is the high school. And I do think your high school students would have a tremendous amount of feedback here. So I'd love to see how they did that. I'm wondering if it might make sense to connect with, there's something like 15 committee members on this Norwood plan, and I can't tell you how many of them are students or if any of them are students or what level everyone is, but we might want to find out, instead of reinventing the wheel here, maybe we put this on the agenda again for February 2nd and find out how they went about it. We could even look at some of their surveys and, get rid of what we don't like, add in what we do, and find out what their committee looked like too. Great. Maybe we just need more information first to come up with a plan.
Yeah, I think so.
And when would we expect to have the results from the equity audit as well?
They're not going to be done until like the end of the school year.
Okay.
So, but certainly if you were going to, I don't know what they're going to recommend, but if they do recommend something and you want to consider it, you'd want a full year to.
Or if they recommend against it, that's important information
Right, all of
that we
that,
should
right.
have before.
You'd certainly want to vet it, like we've done with other topics, right? So, but yeah, that would be helpful to have that information as well. I don't know if it's going to come out of the student focus group. I may have more preliminary information, but they won't present until, I think they said, were you on that meeting with me, June? Or even later?
Summer, yeah, I thought
It
summer.
might go into the summer.
Right.
Because we got a little bit of a later start than we were hoping. We're trying to get it started before the Christmas break, and we're just kind of getting things off the ground now. So we just had some scheduling issues. I did recognize one of the names on your link there. I think it's the principal. I used to work with Hugh Galligan. I think it's the principal at Norwood High.
So would this be a good idea to create a focus group, or would you like a subcommittee?
It might be. I would love to know how they decided who was part of their committee, how they went about this, what the steps were, at what point did they do a student survey, talking about student focus groups, how they scheduled it. I just love to find out more information on, because when I look at this timeline of phase 1 through phase 4, they started this, I think, let's say last February, and it looked like within the span of a year, they then had a recommendation, right? So I'd love to sort of talk to somebody who was part of this, and then we could see how we could improve that or what we don't like about it. But it sounds like they have the framework since they did this so recently.
And what schedule do they have? Do we know?
I think I couldn't find their posted schedule.
Do we know that they actually implemented the schedule that they recommended?
Yeah.
Because usually that takes a while.
So it sounds like some next steps
More research for you, Amanda.
for me would be to perhaps try to connect with someone on Norwood to develop a set, like a suggested or an idea for a framework as far as how we would go about this process.
Cynthia, would you be willing to contact someone at Newton and see if you can find out how they went through their process?
Maybe.
But that's
I don't
also
actually know anybody
super
at
involved and it
Newton,
took
but I
5
just went to
years.
their process.
But their framework could still help us think of things that
Yeah,
we haven't
that's
thought of
true.
yet.
Also, Framingham always goes through a thing where they devise a new schedule and then it didn't happen because of COVID. So Framingham has gone through this process as well, and I can figure out what their framework was.
It's pretty close to home.
Yes, it is. And Millis also changed their schedule recently. That's where my husband teaches, Millis High School. It's a different beast because it's such a small school. Pretty sure the principal just did it. The principal does all the scheduling at that school because it's so small. Pretty sure it took 2 months and they just changed the schedule and does it. But
I don't foresee that happening here.
I can research different, yeah.
I just don't,
here.
given recent events.
But, so it sounds like a good first step for me would be to look into other districts' frameworks
I can
for how they went through this
if
process.
somebody's
And then we
watching
can
this,
develop some ideas of how we'd like to do the same.
Yeah, or even just how they thought through the process, right? Because there could be a whole other link that we're just not thinking of.
And I wonder if Norwood had any of their guidance counselors as part of that group, because they really have that firsthand experience about how many students they have to tell, no, I'm sorry, you can't take that course, or have some creative ideas on how to do it, or how many students end up having to take a course online because it's not available.
Yeah, and I didn't even think of that, what you brought up, Dawn, about the schedule. Does it limit students' abilities to take things? Does it enhance it? Does it?
Yeah, that was
How does
actually
that
just
work
read
at
out.
our
The
school?
Norwood
Yeah.
one said 29% of students feel like they have to make difficult decisions about which courses to take. So they
Vivian
do
didn't
have
get to
this.
take Spanish after her sophomore year because she couldn't fit in her schedule. So now she's taking it in college and she feels behind even though she's had.
Yeah, I do hear of that happening in Holliston.
Yeah, it's not, to me, it's not about APs, it's about what's best for them to get the classes that they need.
Although, with respect to APs, it might, maybe you don't want to get thrown into another AP English or AP Science, and you're really interested in AP Music Theory.
Right.
And make more classes available. So, or maybe we're wrong, but we need to.
But we should look. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being open to the discussion, everybody. I just feel like it's the I don't want it to be one of those things where we hate change, so we don't want to make any changes, even if it's for the best, and it's something that a lot of people talk about.
Sure.
So
And if you want, we can keep it on the
Yeah.
agenda for next time.
Okay.
One thing I would say, though, we need to hear it from inside here, right? I hear it from students, and I hear it from parents. I don't hear it from teachers. And that is one sort of, that's the first group that we probably should be talking to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And really make sure, from their point of view, yeah, I know the kids complain, but really, here's my opportunity to do X, Y, and Z, and here's how I can, like, so I really, they have to be a key piece of this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because as a parent, who are we to say that block scheduling is good or not for our kids? You know, completely. Sure, we can have an opinion about it, but I've never heard it from the teachers.
Well, I think that's why
which is interesting.
it's a puzzle, right? Because the teachers have an incredibly important point of view, and the parents have a very different point of view. But the parents could say, "Oh, yes, my kid had to choose this class instead of this class," right? So there is some data that they'll have that is important as well.
So I find this second point pretty interesting. So they said that provide a bell schedule that combines the elements of our 2021 schedule and our 11 to 20 schedule that staff and students have found beneficial. That is 7-period based Monday through Friday schedule rotation, 5-6 periods a day for 55 to 60 minutes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to think about this, and a lot of permutations of.
This is a good group. Good design. Doesn't give them anything, but yeah.
Yeah, so thanks, everybody. So I'll be glad to do that research as far as what other districts have done for a framework and for a process. How did they involve the teachers? How did they collect data? Did they have a subcommittee? Did they have a focus group? I do not envision this as a school committee decision. I envision this as something that we, the policymakers, can jumpstart, but I would envision the main driving forces and deciders here to be, like you said, folks from within, students and teachers.
I agree wholeheartedly with you on that.
So,
Great.
because they're the ones doing it every day.
Thank
It
you
will
for
be
bringing
something
it
we'll
up.
have to vote
Yep.
on.
Right.
It actually will have to be something we vote on.
All right. Anything else in terms of the block scheduling? Anyone? All right, there is no newsletter today. Items of information. Keith, you had noted that one that you gave us. Is there anything else you need to say about that?
Nope, not talking about it on the agenda.
Our next meeting is February 2nd. At this time, we will adjourn. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to discuss reputation and character, physical condition, and mental health, rather professional competence of the individual, or discuss the discipline or dismissal or complaints of charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual.
Moved by Amanda.
Second.
Moved by Amanda, second by Minnie. Roll call. Ms. Zaborski? Yes. Ms. Raffy?
Yes.
Mrs. Steinrich?
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
Myself, yes. All right, it is 9:19. We are adjourning from here. Have a good night, everyone.